This is the Listen Show. I am Vintage Serp. Welcome to a land where I'm unresearched, unpolished, unnewsworthy. I'm just out here giving jokes, commentary, and opinions. This episode we'll be talking about GNX, Kendrick Lamar's surprise album. Enjoy the show. All right, so let's stop wasting time. Let's get right to it. GNX in-depth review. Overall, I think the motif of the album is this idea that Kendrick's this 1987 one of a kind, super high level American made thing, just like the GNX car itself that he's speaking about. And the belt looks like it's like a championship belt, like the $1 million championship almost. In the black and white album cover, is we're looking at Kendrick fully accepting himself as, yo, I am the shit. I've been the shit, and this is my statement to show to you, like, yo, I'm not here to play anymore. I'm not gonna be over your head. Future me here with a quick edit. He also is making the statement that he's here to stay and not disappear, be more frequent. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first album cover where he's looking directly at the lens. Back to the video. Another thing that we use throughout the album is the motif of this poem. You notice it comes 3 times. It's at the start of the album, right before Whacked Out Murals, which we'll get into when we talk about the song itself. It returns for Reincarnated, and then it comes back again when he mentions Gloria. This album almost kind of feels like, to me, a callback to the themes on Damn and T-Pap and Mr. Morale, but brought down to a everyman level, you know. So the album starts off with Whacked Out Murals, which samples Houdini's Friends, which was also sampled by Nas for If I Ruled the World in '96, and on the Tupac song Troublesome. So I think that just the beat to start the album out on Whacked Out Murals, he sent out a clear thesis statement that, look, this is where I'm aiming at. I'm aiming for these two poetic, deep thinkers who had a deep street life, who both battled pop forces in their careers and tried to change the direction of hip hop. Then Blacked Out Murals also, that's where we start out with. And I'm not gonna try to speak Spanish because, you know, my accent. Go ahead, threaten the people with a good time and then go back on your word. Yeah, listen to his terrible accent. Siento aquí tu presencia, la noche de anoche, y nos ponemos llorar. Which means I feel your presence. I feel your presence here, the night of last night, and we begin to cry. So to me, when I look that up, that reminds me of the To Pimp a Butterfly Tupac poem that's revealed at the end of that album. Just the idea that he's talking to some spirit that arrives and he's having this conversation. And I think in Whacked Out Murals, he mentions that he's listening to Anita Baker and the GNX. I think that the entire album is him sitting in that GNX, having a conversation with himself, with his pen, with his creativity, trying to decide what direction he's gonna move into next. And he also mentions, you know, like Kendrick is known to do. He dropped a couple of titles. We had the Squabble Up reference in Whacked Out Murals, and then he keeps saying Against All Odds towards the end. Again, clear reference in Tupac and that Machiavelli album, that Machiavelli Energy, where he was looking to destroy the industry before rebuilding it. Then there's also another thing that I noted here where he says, it's a lot of opinions, but no power to carry it. Oh, future me realizes he's talking to the media. All the other speculation is cool, though. Now, all right, back to the video. This is a direct 50 illusion, or just the idea that he's now in that position where he's going to battle whoever's against him. And he also, I like that he doubles down on the fact that never let nobody put smut on your name. So he's letting it not be known, like, look, if you say anything about me, I'm gonna come for you. What it is. Like, I'm not humble anymore. Then we fast forward into Squabble Up, which starts with the mention of, again, reincarnated, which we saw before the Not Like Us video. Now, I'm not gonna get all the way into the video and all of its allusions and references, because then I'll be here forever. But I think that the energy shift on Ragtime Murals, where you've got, he's aggressive, he's like, he sounds frustrated, he's angry, he's pensive, he's like, I can't believe everything that I've done and you people don't appreciate it. Then he gets to Squabble Up, and the energy is more like, it is what it is. And if you look in the video, he's almost like, again, you know what I mean? Is that energy of being tired of doing this, but it's what he does. Like, it's normal for him. Like, why you letting me do this? I don't. Why you forcing me to do this? I don't mind to do it, but you know, it's foolish. And I just wanted the one thing I did want to point out about the video though is when he's like, Brody won't go, got some wolf tickets. It's like an annoyed face. Then he kneels down at the mural after he says that the guy's gone. I think that's an allusion to Drake, because right after that, we see the shot of the kid riding the big wheel, like in Menace, the classic hood film based in LA, where at the end Kane runs out to try to save the kid in the big wheel, gets murdered for it. This might also be another PDF allusion, because he says, don't hit him, he got kids with him, my apologies. Again, who do you not want your kids around, right? Then we go into Luther. Now, Luther doesn't have any parts of the poem itself, but it does contain the guitar strings, which I thought was interesting. I think the hook is his pen talking, and I think Luther is actually not about a woman. Like, I think Luther is the relationship with him and his pen, because she goes, if it was up to me, I wouldn't give these nobodies no sympathy. I'd take away the pain. I'd give you everything. I just want to see you win. And then in Gloria, which we're going to get to, is the final track of the album, he does mention the idea that he likes to see his pen losing it and taking other people out, which I thought was phenomenal. Then we get into Man of the Garden. Which is probably my second favorite track on the album after Reincarnated. It is the one mic sample without the Sting overlay. So they took the Sting flip out and they just used the bass line for the one mic. And this is another one of those East Coast records. I feel like this album, even though it was a love letter to LA, Kendrick went out of his way to point out some East Coast icons, specifically Nas and Rakim and Biggie. And we're going to get back to those people in a second. Right? So, in Man of the Garden, it's also, I think, Kendrick's response or continuation of the themes in You, from To Pimp a Butterfly, where he's like, loving you is complicated, where he's talking about a lot of negative self-talk. Now in Man of the Garden, he's gone from, man, you don't deserve all of this stuff, to I deserve it all. And it's not, there's some confidence in his voice. He's almost winded. It's almost like, it's like he's trying to convince himself and God that he's worth it. To be like, look, I deserve it all, and this is why. Like, all of his words are, it's like he's trying to keep up with his words and keep pace with them. He doesn't fully believe them in the song. I also love, I think there were a lot of, J. Cole, not a lot, but I think in this one there was that J. Cole stray where he's like, more blood spilling is just paint to me. If you remember on that Port Antonio song, Madness, J. Cole released, he's like, my brothers were beefing, I'd have both their blood on me. I think this is Kendrick being like, oh, that shit don't matter, who the fuck is you? right? And there are a lot of times where he has a similar attitude towards the battle, just like so. Hey Now at first I didn't like. That's what I think is one of the most blatant Drake disses on the album. He starts off talking about he's got a it's almost like his victory lap, you know. He starts off talking about having a therapeutic flow. I think he's referring to what he did on Euphoria. At the start of Euphoria, you know, where he's like your superpowers getting neutralized. I think he's referring to that part. Um, but then it's clearly a victory lap when he's like, you crash out, you better break the backboard. Play God, you gonna get what you asked for. We got the same 2-4. What you mad for? I think that 2-4 coming right after God. I think he's referring to 6 God. Yeah, could be reaching. A lot of us lyric people seem to do that kind of shit with this nigga. Then he goes on. I put a square on his back like he was Jack Dorsey. It's high beams if I make a public appearance. Go back to hiding because I'm not too friendly with niggas. 1,000, 1,000, 4. Once again, you skipping numbers. It does add up to 7. I'm not sure if that's to, one better than the 6 God because he did go 2 to 4 before. Then he calls himself the Black Noah. I might strangle me a goat. Now think about how vicious that shit is. I'm here saving all of the animals. I'm Noah. I built this ark. I've got 2 of each. For my non-biblical people, apparently God was so petty that he was ready to flood the world. And then he told this drunk dude build an ark. Nobody believed him because he was drunk. So he builds the ark. He takes 2 of every animal. And now here we are. So Kendrick's like, bro, if I was Noah, I strangled the goat. So we wouldn't have any more goats on earth if he were Noah. That is a deep level of hatred to have, right? That's when he gets into the I walked in with a therapeutic flow. Again, Euphoria, your superpowers getting neutralized, the famous hours, Then he gets into verse 2 after he talks to Drake in a very low key hollering at a bitch voice, like talking to Drake like a bitch. Now he switches up and he's flowing like not like us again. He's back in his nasally voice, right? And then interestingly, I don't think I heard anybody catch this, but when he gets into the second verse, when he's like, Ben Frank murderer, Mr. Iron heard of ya, Gulf Streams back to back flying through the turbulence, the beat switches a little bit. And we get some horns on top of the beat. That, to me, sounds like Accident Murderer by Nas. And that cadence is the hook on that song. You was an accident murderer, lying like you killed him on purpose, lying, brag you put work in. That accident murder line was also used on Hit 'Em Up, which is where I think, again, Kendrick's influences. I would say it was more Hit 'Em Up if there wasn't the beat switch right when he starts getting into that rhyme scheme, into that pattern. And then the song ends. Again, we get another reference to back that ass up at the end while the guest artist is rapping at the end of the track. And again, I think here he's highlighting his influences and he's pointing out, like, I'm still that guy and I'm going to show you why I'm the best rapper throughout the rest of my career moving forward. So Reincarnated, this is where I think we get back to the song, we get back to the lyrics, and this is the part where it translates to mean, what does your gaze reflect? The night, you and I, right? So Reincarnated, most of you guys are watching this should know by now, but it's got a Tupac sample from Made Niggas off of the Gang Related soundtrack, and then he's talking about the past lives that he's lived. Now, if you don't catch it at first, it might seem like he's being metaphorical, but at the start of the song he goes, I did past life regression last year and it fucked me up. So past life regression is, for those of you that don't know, I don't have a ton of info on it, but it's from my limited knowledge base. It's where you delve into your past lives and you reflect on those experiences, etc., with whatever guidance. And so Kendrick's saying he did this, and in that conversation, he goes through three different embodiments. The first one, we're not sure who he might be. There's rumors that it might be John Lee Hooker out there on the internet. You guys know better than me. I'm still not sure who he is. Um, Verse two, he's definitely channeling some Billie Holiday. I believe in that one. Um, and I think reincarnated. Before we get into the third verse discussion, this is his response to Taylor Made, right? So Taylor Made freestyle, he's alluding that Kendrick is, worried about Taylor Swift, etc., etc. He's got the AI Tupac sample. And then not only does Kendrick work with Taylor's premier producer on this album and his songwriter, because they're in a group with Soundwave, now he does the Tupac sample without AI. Just showing again, like, my talent. I can do what you want to do without all the gimmicks, without all the tricks. I don't need AI to pull off a Tupac sample because I really respect this man. I really love this dude. I think there's also that when we get into the third verse, when he talks about him being Kendrick Lamar, I think that's when we're going back to the meaning from the poem that reflects your gaze the night you and I, because there's a line in Made Niggas where Pac has said something like, switch, sacrifice my life for yours, something to that effect, right? So now, here's Kendrick. Doesn't say he's Tupac in the song. He's an old blues guitarist turned record exec, and he's a jazz singer. Then he's himself over these past 100 years. So he doesn't mention that he became Tupac, right? So we get into the third verse, and now God's talking to him. And we realize that all the fire inside of him, everything else, was that he was Lucifer. And Kendrick's having this argument with God, like, basically God's telling Satan that I sent you here to learn and to be humble, but you keep fucking shit up and messing people up. And now, at the end of it, Kendrick's like, I rewrote the devil's story just to take our power back. Carnated, not reincarnated, carnated. So I think at this point he's saying, look, I know the devil's in music. I know there's a lot of negative influence to what we've created so far, but now I'm going to use that power that you've given me. I'm going to flip it and change the world, right? And again, it's not a coincidence that this song is a continuation of the poem from the first, which is a Tupac sample where Kendrick is rapping in the cadence and flow of Pac. But it's also an allusion to the poem that he read to Tupac in To Pimp a Butterfly when they had the interview. So it's just like, this album almost feels like his second draft of his thesis, if you will. There's no more fire and brimstone. He's not on that, oh, you're gonna go to, black people, we're destroying ourselves. It's more of the enlightenment. I'm gonna lead you guys instead of talking down to you. And I think that that's why we're getting a lot more people pulled in, because he's moving away from the fire and brimstone talk and moving more towards the, hey, it's about understanding, do it this way, do it with me, and learn, right? And one day we'll get into all those religion connotation thing at some point, depending on how popular this channel gets. And then I think he also mentions that no more putting people in fear. And I think that there's also a reference again in the song where he mentions where Tupac says, he's gonna have his enemies and fears, etc., etc. And I think that that's what Kendrick is referring to here. He's like, look, I used to put people in fear, but I'm not gonna do that anymore, right? And there's another. Yeah, I poured on this a lot, so, but I think ultimately, it's the reincarnated is Kendrick transforming Pac, aka, and Lucifer's energy into his, right? But yeah, I mean, I guess that fire could also be the Holy Spirit, which Christians believe is like a fire as well. But I think it tracks more along the lines of being Lucifer, because Lucifer was kicked out for wanting too much, for supposedly being a leader and then falling off. Then we get into what I think is gonna be the Super Bowl centerpiece track. I think that the diss tracks from earlier this year, Not Like Us, etc., I think Kendrick knew very well that it would be a harder sell to go to the Super Bowl and say, all the PDF file stuff, etc., etc. So here we have Turn Your TV Off, which doesn't have any Drake mention. But ironically, the beat, to me, has got that cadence of Guess Who's Back by Rakim. That dun, 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 So, and then, but the beat doesn't kick in until, because at the start, all we have is the horns, right? He goes, all I ever wanted was a black Grand National. Fuck being rational. Give them what they asked for. Then we get the Guess Who's Back beat, right? Which is very reminiscent of Rakim when he came out in '98 with the 18th letter. At the time, people thought, being a 30-year-old rapper was old. So this is Rakim coming back to prove that he can still be lyrical, right? Then he goes into the there's not enough pocket flow, right? So few solid niggas enough, but it's not enough. Few bitches that'll really step, but it's not enough. Say you bigger than myself, but it's not enough. Now, I think that is a reference to not, just Drake saying that he's bigger than Kendrick in terms of art. I think he's going back to that Family Matters and all of the pipsqueak type down talk, right? Because Drake was, needled a lot about the guy's height. Then, after he goes from there's not enough, right? He's like, hey, this is what the world's lacking. And it's like, well, somebody's got to do these things. I got on their ass. Somebody's got to do it. I make them niggas mad. Somebody's got to do it. I take a G-Pass. Yeah, watch a nigga do it. Right? So he's letting you know, like, there's not a lot of people. These are the things I need. Solid niggas, bitches that'll really step, right? And then he's letting you know what he's going to do. He's going to get on their ass. He's going to make them mad and take their G-Passes. Because they're not amongst the real ones, right? Then he goes again. We underscore this idea that he survived outside or from the music, nigga. What, right? He goes, "There's the Alpha and Omega, bitch. Get him gone. Welcome home." And I think that there's the Alpha and Omega. Obviously, the beginning and end of the Greek alphabet. He did call himself the Omega before, but here I think in calling it Alpha and Omega, I think he's referring to the cartoon, the kids' cartoon series. And again, calling Drake a PDF file because this is the Alpha and the Omega. We're going to get you going because you're a fucking pedophile, right? This is a revolution, how to get a nigga going, right? Then he gets into a low-key sing-songy flow where I think he's talking to the female fans, where he's like telling Drake's fans, you need a man, baby. I don't want to slam, baby. Pay your bills and make you feel protected like I can, baby. Teach you something if you need a correction. That's the plan, baby. Don't put your life in these weird niggas' hands, baby. Whop. Right? So he starts off announcing what the purpose of the song is. Then he gets to talking to the female fans and he reminds you, like, this is a spanking. Right? Now what does he say? Turn his TV off. Right? I think that's got a double meaning here. One, obviously, he's killing his career. He's killing this dude. And two, don't watch the fucking Super Bowl because the TV, if the TV's on, you're gonna see me, right? Then he mentions then this is his J. Cole stray again. He's like, and with my type of activities, then don't get involved. It's like, don't tell me that just stay out of it if you're not with my activities, right? So then he gets into the take a rest or take a trip. You know I'm tripping for my dog. Right, so this is again talking back about that For All the Dogs album that started all of this shit with the first person shooter, etc. Right? Then he gets into this flow where he's like, "Who you with? Couple sergeants and lieutenants for the get back. This revolution been televised. I fell through with the knickknacks." I think here he's talking about the lawsuit. Like clearly, this album was recorded, not on last week. And the lawsuit's probably been in development for a while. They're both at the same label. So he probably got some words about it, right? And they said I fell through with the knickknacks. So he's talking about the Pop Out, the Not Like Us video, and of course the Super Bowl, right? Then he says, hey, blackout, if they act out, yeah, I did that. So he's like, again, reminding the world that, yo, I black out when you try to talk, when you act against me, right? Then he gets back to, hey, what's up, dog? Right? The hey, what's up, dog part again. Instead of saying, hey, Drake, it's like, hey, what's up, dog? Right? Now your dog is you, right? You're no longer just Drake, your dog. What up, dog? Right? Then he gets into, he's got a big mouth, but he lacks big ideas, right? Send him to the moon. That's just how I feel, yelling. And then we get into the everybody's favorite part, the mustard yell. But again, this is send him to the moon. That's the Honeymooners reference. Or Ralph Cramden. Oh, Alice Wayada, one of these days I'm a boom, bang, right to the moon, right? So it was a metaphor for, or an allusion to domestic violence and beating your wife in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, whenever the fuck the Honeymooners came out. Only white people, right? But again, so I think this is again another instance of him calling Drake a bitch, because if he's talking about sending him to the moon, Ralph Cramden was saying that to his wife Alice, right? Then this is the diabolical part of the song. After he yells mustard, now we've got the horns. Now if you listen to those horns, it's very New Orleans big band. Like this is, I assure you, this will be at the Super Bowl. Mark it down. Like this song's gonna be played. This might be played at the start or the end, but it's gonna be somewhere in his performance when those horns come in, right? Because here, this is when he first starts saying, turn the TV off, right? He doesn't say turn his TV off before this part. Before that, he's laying down his groundwork. Now he's having fun again, right? He's like, niggas acting bad, but somebody's got to do it. Got my foot up on the gas, but somebody's got to do it, right? And then he says, this is the bar that I think underscores his view of Drake's ruination. Nigga ran up out of luck soon as I upped the highest metric, right? So Drake was finished once he changed what the criteria for greatness is. Just a simple line. Not super, but again, nigga ran up out of luck soon as I changed. Nigga ran up out of luck soon as I upped the highest metric. What it takes to be the best, I changed it. And now that guy's out of luck. Not just him. I think in this case, he's talking to everybody. Like, it's not just about how witty your pen is. It's like you have to take your authentic life experiences and share those and make the world understand it, right? And he goes, the city just made it sweet, you could die, bet it. They mouth it full of deceit, let the cowards tell it. Walk in New Orleans with the etiquette of LA yelling. So this is, again, he's directly speaking about his Super Bowl performance. This is going to be on there. Whew, that boy good. Then we get into Dodger Blue. Now, Dodger Blue's a track that I didn't get at first. There might be a lot of um, subs in here. I could be wrong. I'm not a Kendrick Lamar-ologist really, but I fuss with him. He's one of my favorite artists. But I like the line where he goes, "Little nigga, get that dog in me. That's on top." Right? Have you ever ran a fade, then ran 3 more back to back? So I think that again, the top dog illusion, but more specifically talking to the fact that, bro, I had to literally fight to earn my respect in this stuff, right? Then he goes, 50 on me, don't die trying and shit. Which again is 50 Cent's first album, Get Rich or Die Trying. Is this an allusion to it? Like, is he again saying that, look, I'm the new 50 Cent, I have that energy, don't fuck with me, right? And then at the end he goes, don't say you hate LA, but you never passed the 10. Don't say you hate LA, but live in LA and pretend. Now there was an artist not from LA who recently, a couple of months ago, made a post saying fuck LA, fuck all the Hoovers, everything else. I don't know if that's the MC that Kendrick's referring to, but that's what I took out of it. But yeah, Dodger Blue, low key, smoking, riding LA to the highest. Then we got Peekaboo, which goes from hopeful to eerie, like, what they talking about nothing. They talking about nothing. They talking about, you know what I mean? And I think this is again one of those direct shots at Drake where he's going, "Why you acting tough on IG Live, Peekaboo? You know me and my niggas off the rocker, right?" Then the hard part 6, we open up with the Spanish guitars again, and then we got that SWV Relax Your Mind beat. Really kind of reminds me of that 90s 2000s hip hop, which would have been the hip hop that Kendrick grew up listening to. And so it's like reminiscing on his growth and growing apart from his group. Like, I really like that there was no salaciousness really. And he talks about the fact that he wasn't the original focus, that they're working towards J-Rock. He mentions his inspiration by Ab-Soul. He talks about Schoolboy Q coming in and believing in him. Talks about Dave Free, and it's just one of those records that's rarely done in rap, where you talk about the end of one relationship without negativity and hatred, and talk about the growth, because he says, like, I learned from all of these people, then I wanted to do it myself, like I wanted to be independent, right? Me here was, but I'm done a half job communicating my feelings of being stagnant, right? So he's taking accountability, saying, like, look, I didn't express to you how I felt about my feelings of being stagnant. I just like started to get upset, right? But I love that there's no mess involved in here really. That is just a love letter to his old friends that he's no longer as close with, right? Then GNX, I love that it's really just a posse cut showcasing the young artists and real gangsters. And tell him Blank did it, tell him Peso did it, tell him Hitter did it, tell him Threat did it, tell him Kendrick did it, right? So I love that old school, like, I want to say 90s era, 2000s era, just posse cut a bunch of niggas going back and forth. And I think with this GNX track, like, the energy that I got, it made me really look forward to a Black Hippie reunion on the next album, which I think we're gonna get. I don't think we get all this talk about Black Hippie without him either having a project with them brothers or a couple of songs on the next project, right? Then it ends in Gloria, where we come back to the poem. So again, remember, it's at the first song, it's at the midway point of the album, now it's at the end. So it starts off with Sentado, Anita y tú. So sitting, Anita and you. Remember, at the start of the album, he says he's sitting his GNX listening to Anita Baker, right? So To me, it sounds like it slowed down me and my girlfriend because of the way the guitar sounds. A couple of lines that stuck out to me here, a callback to Luther where he goes, "Whenever you want me, you got me to the end of time." Then he goes in when he's so jealous, hated when I hit the club to get some bitches, wrote him off, rather see me hit the church and get religious. Then he goes, "Remember when you caught that body and still wiggled through that sentence?" Remember when you caught that body and still wiggled through that sentence? Now, is that him talking about Drake? Or is that him talking about that line from Good Kid, Mad City, where it says, "If I told you I killed a nigga at 16, would you believe me to be the good Nick Kendrick that you see in the street?" Right? So is he referencing that? Or is this something else? Right? Is it a fictional body or an actual body? I'm not here to make cases on black artists, right? And he says, "Loved you more when you flip and lose your shit. I hugged you more." Right? He goes back again to this idea that his pen can either heal or kill people. Right? And he says, "Bitches getting marked out. They can't erase our history. Their margins ain't big enough. They all lead to bigotry." Right? So, and I think that is a direct shot at the media over here, right? And then I love how SZA comes in the hook where she says, "Gloria, I want to take you to euphoria. Bitches want you, but they ain't strong enough." I think the bitches he's talking about here is Kendrick. "I heard her talking, we notorious." Right? So again, we are he's making allusions to the greatest rappers within the genre: Tupac, Biggie, Rakim, Nas. Right? Those are his four rap artists that he constantly has allusions to on here. All right, and those are my thoughts on GNX. I'm sure they're gonna evolve, but I don't know if I'm gonna do another video on the album. I'll probably just talk about the Squabble Up video at some point. But my next video is actually gonna be about the Drake lawsuit and why I think it's a good thing, and why I hope he actually wins, or at least makes a lot of practices accessible to other artists moving forward. So again, I'm gonna let y'all. We'll be back with that one maybe a day or two. We'll see what my editor's schedule looks like until the next one. Peace.